happy Friday. It's Insta Live on Friday. This is Audrey Benton from Safe Harbors of the Finger Lakes, and I use the pronouns she, her, hers. And today we're going to be talking about Title IX, like we have been for the last couple weeks, and reporting and like your reporting options. So we'll kind of go over that, and I'm going to only go over some of the other options, reporting options briefly, as we'll be talking about that at the last Friday of the month, and then next week we'll be talking about investigations specifically and what that looks like. And I don't know if you noticed, but for some reason the video from last week did not post to our Instagram, so I apologize for that, but it is available on our YouTube channel. So if you missed last week, we talked about Title IX, and honestly, I can't remember what we talked about last week. I know the first Friday we talked about Title IX and the history. And so, we talked about the Title IX changes. That's right. Man. So we talked about the Title IX changes that went in effect last year and what those look like. So if you want to check that video out, you can definitely check it out on our YouTube channel. And like I said last week, we have a great video that we made about those Title IX changes as well with a lawyer who specializes in Title IX. Her name's Ashley Dickinson. She's from Legal Assistance of Western New York. And we did a video, and it's about an hour long, so it is a little long, but she goes over a lot of great stuff. So if you want to check that one out, it's also on our YouTube channel. So with that, before we get started, I just want to go over a couple quick things. I want to provide a content warning, as some of the material I'll be discussing may be sensitive to some. So please take care of yourself however you need to. And also a disclaimer, the views and opinions expressed in this video are not necessarily those of Safe Harbors of the Finger Lakes, but of those in the video. So with that, we'll go ahead and get started. So like I said, I'm going to keep it pretty short as we'll be going over like kind of what an investigation may look like next week. But I'm going to definitely go over your rights to make a report if you'd like to and what that might look like. And obviously this could vary from college or school to school. So I'm definitely going to encourage you to check out your school's policies as well on this, but I'm going to hopefully give you an idea of what this might look like. So with that, we'll go ahead and get started, because I know Title IX can be kind of challenging to understand, but I want to make sure you all know the right information or know where to find it, and your rights as a student at school. So, and like I said, I know I kind of am focusing like more on college level students, but this applies K through 12 as well. So, if you remember, any public school or school funded by federal funding of any sort is required by law to follow Title IX. So if you fall under that category, then Title IX applies to you. Okay? So, we'll go ahead and get started. So I kind of want to just go over your rights and knowing what your rights are. And this is from the Department of Education, so the ones that oversee this. And so your school is responsible to address sexual harassment and sexual violence and any other relationship type violence. It's required by law, and any sort of violence. That's under like the Clery Act, which we'll talk about at some point too. But they're required by law to respond to incidents or concerns of violence, especially sexual violence. So your school has a responsibility to respond promptly and effectively. If a school knows or reasonably should know about sexual harassment or sexual violence that creates a hostile environment, so it makes it unsafe for you to continue your education or any other things at school, if it makes it difficult for you to go to school, then they're required by, they're required by law to respond to that. They must take immediate action to eliminate the sexual harassment or sexual violence, prevent its reoccurrence, and address its effects on students or staff or whoever. So even if a student's parent does not want to file a complaint or does not request that the school take any action on the student's behalf, if a school knows or reasonably should know that the possible sexual harassment or sexual violence, it must promptly investigate to determine what occurred and then take appropriate steps to resolve the situation to make sure that no one else could get hurt as well. And we'll kind of talk about that more in terms of what that will look like next week, in terms if you choose not to go forward and you just want to see what your options are, you do report, you want to remain anonymous, what that might look like, okay? So And then after that, so, it was criminal investigation into allegations of sexual harassment or sexual violence does not relieve the school of its duty under Title IX to resolve complaints promptly and equitably. And I know we talked about that last week, so if there is a criminal investigation going on at the same time, that does not mean the school should not continue investigating, because they're completely separate things. And that's something we'll go over as an option for reporting. And I will go over that a little more in depth also if you choose to make another report besides to Title IX, example to law enforcement and what that might look like. And we'll talk about that the last Friday of this month. So to ensure that you know how to report and who to make a report to, the school is required to provide that information and distribute a policy on sexual discrimination or sexual violence, and how they, if they're involved in this or if they are experiencing something related to this, they know where to go and how to do it. So Title IX requires that each school publish that policy, that it does not discriminate on the basis of sex in its education program and activities. The notice must be widely distributed and available on an ongoing basis. So if you've noticed on your school's website, most of the time under the Title IX page on your school's website, there should be a policy, whether that's called the Student Code of Conduct or a sexual misconduct policy, but there needs to be a policy that specifically lists resources available, your options to reporting and what that looks like, and, what's going to work best for you. And so they're required by law to do it. So if you don't know that exists, you haven't received your student bill of rights, you don't know what the policy looks like, that's something you should definitely find out, because schools are required to have that and easily available to students and staff. So, and actually under the new rules, they're specifically supposed to list, all schools are supposed to have a Title IX coordinator that are funded federally speaking, and they're supposed to specifically list that Title IX coordinator, who they are, where they're located, how to contact them, and because if you're going to make a formal complaint, you are supposed to go to the Title IX coordinator, okay? So, it's supposed to be, an easy process to make a report, and I say it's supposed to be easy for you since it is a really difficult process. It can be overwhelming for some people. It can be very stressful, especially after you've experienced this type of violence. So it's important for you to know what your options are and where to go to find those options. So, and I just want to point out a formal complaint and what that means. And I know we talked about who a complainant is. The complainant is the person making the allegations of abuse or violence to the school, so that's a complainant. So a formal complaint is someone making that complaint. It's just as it sounds, but it's a formal complaint, which is under the new rules under Title IX. You're required to make a formal complaint in order to move forward into an official investigation. Okay, so according to the new rule, a formal complaint, and this is described as a document filed by the complainant, so the person, alleging this happened, or signed by the Title IX coordinator alleging sexual harassment against a respondent and requesting that the school investigate the allegation of sexual harassment. So it's just an official document, either filed by the person alleging this or the Title IX coordinator, in requesting this investigation officially. At the time of filing a formal complaint, a complainant must be participating in or attempting to participate in the education program or activity of the school in which the formal complaint is filed. Okay, so that means you're still supposed to be making an effort to go to school or, working out, because we talked about supportive measures last week, and if we didn't, I do apologize, but supportive measures make it so you feel safe and you can still continue your education as well. And obviously both parties are offered those supportive measures, but supportive measures can also be in place, which is required by law for them to provide those, so you can continue your educational program or activity, okay? So I just want to point out a couple things that you might see if you look at your school's policies on reporting an incident. So depending on where you go to school, this might vary a little bit. So you might see words or phrases like confidential resources or confidential reporting. So according to your policies or the law, a confidential resource is absolutely confidential. They cannot share information. If anything, they might be able to report statistical data, but with no identifying information included, like your name, birthday, obviously, or specifics of the incident, just very basic statistical information. So your confidential resources or reporting options should be listed under your policies for your campus. So for example, Safe Harbors is a fully confidential resource. So we will not share any information. Obviously, I mean, we're mandated reporters, so obviously if it's including anything that's harming yourself, someone else, or a child specifically, we have to obviously share that. But anything else, we are fully confidential. Same with counselors. Usually campus counseling services are fully confidential. And there might be a couple other people on campus that are considered confidential, and they should be listing on-campus and off-campus confidential resources and reporting options. So that's one thing you might see. You might actually see a private, they'll say private reporting or resources, so that's usually your Title IX office or your dean. So yes, they'll keep this matter private, but they obviously will have to go forward with this information. They might start investigating a little bit, informally speaking, or if you want to do it formally, they can keep this matter private, but they can't obviously keep it to themselves. Okay, same with like a semi-confidential or actual knowledge employee. You might see these terms used sometimes. So the school designates maybe all employees or staff are actual knowledge employees or semi-confidential. They might designate certain people as semi-confidential. That means they can, keep stuff relatively private. Maybe they'll just share basic information with no identifying information to Title IX about the incident, especially if there's a concern that this is a pattern sort of thing, or this is happening a lot, or it's very violent. It could threaten the safety of the rest of the student body. Then they might share some basic information without maybe identifying information like your name. Okay, so it's just something, and definitely look at your school's policies because they should be defining these terms as well. And they might use different phrases or words to do this, but that's what it looks like. They should be designating fully confidential, private, maybe semi, and what that looks like with their contact information. And so you know your options, okay? So if you seek to disclose, you want to tell somebody about what happened to you, you can sometimes, I know some schools have an anonymous option, so you can call the Title IX office and not share identifiable information, like obviously your name or anything like that, and to share information that way. Or I know some schools have a form online that you can make an anonymous report online as well, and that's an option. But like I said, a formal complaint, needs to, be made by the complainant to the Title IX coordinator, and the Title IX coordinator needs to allege this harassment from a respondent, and they need to sign off on that. So that's a formal complaint. And so it might not go through a formal process if you're doing it anonymously. So you can also go to the Title IX office, which you should know who the Title IX coordinator is at your school, in person or by calling. And obviously they'll probably set up a time to meet with you if you'd like, but usually they have walk-in hours available as well. And then you can also report to law enforcement. I won't go into a lot of depth about this, but you do have the right, and the school should be listing your right to make a report to, criminally speaking, to criminal court, or you can do Title IX process. You can do both. You can do neither. You can do one or the other. You have lots of options to make a report. Or you might not want to report at all and you just want information on the reporting process, what that looks like, and you're more than welcome to do that. And I know as an advocacy service, we can go over that with you as well. So if you're looking to keep this private, we're a fully confidential agency, so if you want to go over that with an advocate, that's definitely a possibility, or your counseling services and things like that. Okay, so like I said, this should be on your school's website, usually under the Title IX page for reporting, and you should, like I said, should see a student bill of rights on that page, and a student code of conduct, or sometimes it's called a sexual misconduct policy. So that's just like the basics of making a report. So like I said, you can make a report if you'd like to, but it might not go through a formal resolution if you don't directly obviously do that to the Title IX coordinator, because that's under the new rule to do that. So It's important to know your, rights, your resources, who you can talk to fully confidentially or not, privately speaking, but they have to, share that information. So make sure you tune in next week. We're going to go over what the investigation process looks like or may look like. Obviously, this varies from school to school, but that's why it's important to check out your school's policy. And your school should be handing this out, especially if you're a new student. So freshmen or transfers, they usually have to provide this information, and it should be widely available to students on their website. So if you have any questions, concerns, you want to learn more about that, reach out to Safe Harbors of the Finger Lakes. You can go to our website, which is www.shflny.org. You can always call our 24-hour hotline, which is 800-247-7273. And also, if you want to reach out to people on campus, that should be easily found on your school's website under the Title IX tab if you want to speak to someone confidentially. That's always encouraged, and like I said, we're fully confidential if you want to not go forward with it yet, but you want to find out more information. And also there's lots of information under the Title IX part of your school's website as well. So that's that. So tune in next week, and then of course the last Friday of the month, because we'll go over other reporting options, which is mostly going to be discussing criminal investigations and just also what might work best for you moving forward. So thank you all so much. I hope you have a wonderful weekend. Thank you again. And if you are obviously watching this later, this is available on our Instagram and YouTube. And that's it.